Welcome back. This is Daybreak, and thank you for staying with us. It's 3 minutes past the hour, and you are watching this broadcast. Thanks for staying with us. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422. With me in the studio this morning on my far right is Senator Eddie Okech, the County of Migori, Belgut lawmaker, Nelson Koech, also the chairperson of the Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations Committee of the National Assembly, the 49th President of the Law Society of Kenya, Counsel Nelson Harvey, is with us in studio, as well as Senator Richard Onyonka. And thanks for staying with us. Yes, Honorable Koech.
I was saying, what I picked, and what I was telling my friend here, Nelson Harvey, was that he doesn't need to be agitated by my comments. All I'm saying is that Nelson Harvey is part and parcel of the Kenya Kwanza administration. Nelson Harvey is an appointee of the president and works for Kenya Kwanza administration as a chairman.
I work for the people of Kenya.
People of Kenya, through the government of, you are appointed by
just
the president.
Just like Richard Onyonka here works for the people of Kenya.
But that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Yes. So you were appointed by the president as a chairman of RBA.
So what?
But if you allowed me to just speak, I allowed you to speak.
I allowed you to speak nonsense.
But no, it's not. Yeah. I'm just trying to build a story and so that you understand.
I'm a lawyer of many years.
No. But I also want you to be extremely factual on what you say.
Defense counsel. I will not allow you to peddle falsehoods.
It's not falsehood. You're a chairman. Are you not the chairman of RBA?
So must I keep quiet when
No. Am I asking? Are you the chairman of RBA?
I am the chairman.
No one. All I'm saying is that we must be factual because you also communicate with the president. When you communicate with the president, just like we do, we also say it is wrong.
So you are the meat behind abductions, huh?
Are you? Okay. I have said this.
Nelson Harvey, let Nelson Koech make his point.
Let me make my point, because it's becoming extremely emotional and reasonable.
Okay, guys. Okay, take it easy. Okay? Take it easy.
This is my point, okay? If there are abductions, and I have said this countless times, I'm a leader, and I don't have to praise anyone for me to make my statement. I have said if the abduction, the sanctity of life must be protected. Today we're in government. Tomorrow we might not be in government. As a member of parliament who suffered a lot of arrests in last parliament, I'm aware of the consequence of not having human life protection. Okay. And I'm acutely aware that if this is a scenario, and if it is true that there were abductions, then it is worrying. All I am saying is that, but let us be factual. Let us not be sensational. Let us have our statement. If today these young men come out because they have been asked to go and write a statement, what if they turn out and say, it was an act?
Well, if it's a possibility.
Yes.
So you're talking about probability.
I'm looking at probabilities.
And you have no predictive skill.
Because I have seen what has happened. Okay. We must be responsible. We must also not just accuse just because we want to accuse the government.
So let me then let me ask you this.
You know why I'm saying that? It's because Nelson Harvey has gone further to say they actually have a meeting to punish Professor Kindiki and Onesmus Kipchumba Murkomen.
That's the Law Society of Kenya.
That's the Law Society of Kenya.
I'll come to you, Honorable Onyonka. But Honorable Koech, allow me to ask you this, because you're raising fundamental questions, and if it's a possibility. All right. The last time we hosted you here, Kizza Besigye was taken from Nairobi and to Kampala.
Yes.
You chair the Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations Committee of the National Assembly.
Yes.
Was there a report into that as to how it happened and why it happened?
We are going to, when we resume Parliament, remember that space when this happened, we were actually going on a recess. So just, I think, about 2 or 3 days before we went on recess. So we're still going to invite the Minister of Foreign Affairs to shed light on what exactly happened. I promise you, and I promise this media house, I promise the country, I will invite Musalia Mudavadi. He must explain what happened to Besigye, how did he leave the country, and who participated in facilitating that illegal act of moving back to Uganda.
Does that trouble you?
It does trouble me.
And you're not troubled by the abductions of Kenya?
I am troubled by the abductions of Kenyans.
But you are likely making it an issue that is a probability, a possibility.
I am not saying a possibility. I am not saying it's a possibility. I'm saying if it is to, because you see, all these young men were released the same day. All these young men refused to speak to the media. There was a live interview in Nakuru.
Dead.
Okay.
It was a live interview. in Nakuru of Kibet. And he was asked, Kibet, can you tell the media what exactly happened? He said he doesn't want to speak about it. Why is everyone running away from speaking about it? Because if it was abduction, I'll speak about it. There was a live interview, okay? The two that Harvey is saying were dead is unfortunate. That is why the police must find out. One of the two that he's saying is a case that I've just raised of a Bomet young man engineer who the family has totally dissociated him from the abductions. So it's a worrying trend. It worries me. It's not, I mean, we want investment in this country. We do not, like Eddie did say, we don't want in a January to be discussing issues of abductions. We have better things to discuss in this country. Because it's about
we
have issues to discuss about it. We have students that are going back. After this show, I'm going back to the constituents to make sure that we are able to have enough classrooms for those who are joining.
All right. So
those are some of the things that we will be discussing this morning.
And it's only fair then that life outbalances education.
Absolutely.
Who do you have to educate if young people are being abducted? And
are you listening? Let me repeat it for the final time. I have said I do not condone or support abductions. It is illegal, it is immoral, it is wrong.
Thank you.
No administration should be accused of doing that.
Yes, Senator Onyonka.
I've been sitting here just listening to my brother Nelson, and he's been my friend for many years.
Koech or Habi?
I mean Nelson Koech. Nelson Koech. Nelson, look at the pictures on the newspaper. Look at how government vehicles.
How do you know it's government vehicle?
This is a government vehicle.
You can tell a government vehicle. You see, I don't want to also talk as if this thing is personal to me. It is personal, but not the way you wanted to accuse my brother Nelson Harvey. The KK government doesn't have to lie about anything. The KK government was given the mandate by the Kenyan people. The disagreements that exist between Honorable Gachagua and the president and his impeachment and the coming of Kindiki, for some of us, it doesn't mean anything. For anybody, like I saw, because I attended Speaker Wetangula's mother's funeral, and I was sitting there and I listened to Kimani Ichung'wah say how Honorable Natembeya was abducting people, and in fact, these people have been abducting themselves. I mean, at some point, people in this country are just going to look and look at all of us in leadership and say, what happened to these people? Why is it that we behave as if actually this is not a state? This is just some banana republic where you can break the law as you may so wish, abduct anybody you want. If I say something and I've broken the law, you don't have to arrest me, Ayub. What they do is come and invade my place. Even they can cut all my children's heads and for retaliation. That's not the country. This is not the Senate. This is not the republic. This is not the president I expected William Ruto to be. I expected his standard to be higher. Like I've said before, the president has served 4 different presidents. Any mistakes that those presidents were making, by now, surely he should have trained himself to fix them. He was with Moi. Finished Moi, he came to Kibaki. He was in the coalition government of Kibaki and Raila. You remember our mess in 2008? I mean, it's like we are handling our country as if we want to go into war. People are already saying how they're either going to rig elections or take those elections and do whatever they want to do with them. And that is normal in a normal democratic republic that we've all been fighting about and saying how wonderful our country is and how we can more take it next and how we can change certain things. We are struggling in education, struggling in infrastructure, struggling in governance. I am worried. I am an extremely worried person. And yet other people are laughing these things off. It's normal.
Senator Diaz.
You know, we are discussing issues of human rights here at a time that we have just lost the chair of,
National Human Rights.
Yes, Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. And I think it just behooves us to reflect and also say sorry to the family. Because the issues of human rights have been here with us for such a long time. And I think it's also courteous because all of us who are seated here are leaders in this country. Regardless of the details we have about the abductions, I think that the ordeal of going through an abduction is not an easy one. Even if you've not experienced it, you do not know what these young people went through. Going through Christmas without their families, sometimes going through different kind of scares. I mean, I would understand as a young person who has once lived in the streets that you can have experience in this life that if a media was cast on your face, you wouldn't even talk. Not even a media, your own family. Sometimes the experience you had during a 1 day or even 1 year of abduction, it doesn't matter. It can be scary. It can be something that you don't wish on anybody. And therefore, I want to take this opportunity to say sorry for these young people who went through that ordeal. It's something I wouldn't even want my own person to go through. Now, that said, I think that as leaders, we must reflect on how we want to approach this year on the issue of human rights. And I think that reflection takes a tangent on the backdrop of June 25th last year. In the sense that if we are leaders and we become reckless with our statements in the midst of such national issues of importance, we can lose a country. Remember that what happened in June was triggered predominantly by leaders who were reckless in terms of their display of their affluence, in terms of their arrogance on their statements that people were raising. And I want to caution leaders that as simple things as abductions, and that's why I think that all of us speak to the president. That's a fact. Avi speaks to the president. That's how he got his appointment, in the sense that even if he wasn't rewarded, right? At least he was communicated to by the president. I think that he has got that open channel with the president. He has got a phone call that he can call the president can pick. My friend Nelson here, Koech, speaks to the president. Onyonga will tell you, Senator, that even before the president went to Kisii, he was in State House. And he visited the president. He has told us here. He visited the president, and he talked to the president, and he showed him what the president should do. The same as myself, I can tell you that I speak to the president because he is the president now up until the next election. And if we as leaders we don't rise to the occasion of being able to point to him what is wrong, then we have a problem. But one thing that we must do as leaders that are seated here, we must know that any public office that we are holding, under Article 73 of the Constitution, we are serving it because of the honor and the trust of the public. And it behooves us that whenever we have got these kind of problems, we must rise to the occasion to bring the country together. And that's why in my lesson I was telling you, Nelson Harvey, I was telling you very clearly that leaders, whether you are right now in a seat or not, politicization of issues is not the best way to approach national crisis. Because now abduction is becoming a crisis in the country.
It's a pandemic.
It's a big pandemic in the country. And I can assure you that when I met the president, he was remorseful about it, and he expressed himself on the backdrop of our advice that this issue must be dealt with. And he is the person with the sword that can be able to abduct the abductors, if I may use that word. And I said it actually in public, that as a president, you've got a responsibility to abduct the abductors. Because if somebody from Uganda or somebody from Tanzania or Somalia was to come for our lives, and we have given you the sword, what will you do with it? You protect us. And these are people who are coming for our children, for whichever reason, whether it is because of political reasons or any other reasons of seeking for ransom. These people are coming for our children. Therefore, he has got a responsibility to protect those children, but us as political leadership can also not use it on the theater of politics. And I want to ask my brother Nelson Harvey, what is not true about what I've raised, about what Gachagua said, right? The former deputy president. What is not true about Avi being silent in the wake of what was happening during Azimio protests? There was the highest number of abductions that happened in the beginning of 2023. This is a fact. There was a highest number of killings that happened more than even what happened to Gen Zs. Gen Z 75 is the number that we are given that were killed. Some we don't know. But in the wage of Azimio protest, I was in it. I escaped bullets. I have seen kids that I know that I grew up with. If you go here in Uruma, there's a young man called Omina that died at the door of his own mother. He didn't go on protest. I have buried people in Migori who were killed. And at that time of human rights violation, Avi was quiet. The deputy president was even ridiculing, he was even laughing about it. So you cannot come here today with a moral authority that is Gachagua today, talking about these abductions in a political way as if we don't know some of these people. What I'm saying, Ayub, is that human rights violation in this country cannot be tolerated in any form and at any time of convenience.
All right.
There's no day of convenience for Avi to say that today I'm fighting for abductions, but there's a day that when those abductions are happening to other people, then it's convenience for him and so to other people.
Okay.
Abductions are abductions. We must fight them and fight them at any given time they happen in this country.
And you being the senator, I mean, two wrongs never make a right. And
True.
An eye for an eye certainly isn't the solution.
Yes.
You have listed or signposted pretty issues that are very important on the sanctity of human lives. Why is this problem then not being addressed, rather it being now a perpetual continuity of where the Uhuru administration left?
Yeah, and this is the arrogance that we see in political leadership that we as a people must address, right? And that's why
Does that include the arrogance in leadership of the ODM party leaders, the ODM party members in cabinet?
I haven't seen the ODM party members in cabinet, taking...
Former members.
Yes, the former... Thank you for saying that. The former members of ODM, I haven't seen where they have been vehement and in denial of these human rights violations, especially these abductions. And where there are those cases, we as a party and we as former colleagues of them in the party have been very vocal at calling them out.
Okay, then let me read you this. 2nd December, Ali Hassan Joho, CS Mining, when he was with the president, this was on Kenyans who are online. There are people, he said, at this very moment, we know they are online. I'm giving them a notice today. They shouldn't think that they're the only ones with a mouth. We have mouths as well. If they poke us, we'll respond affirmatively. Do you condemn this statement?
Do I condemn the statement that Joe made about online people? I personally, as a political, and I started by saying this, that as a politician...
Senator, that is a semantic evasion.
Yes.
Yes or no? Do you condemn it?
I do condemn it. I do condemn that statement, but that's not a statement that Joe said.
He said, I'm quoting him...
No, I'm saying he did not support abductions. He just said that people who are abusing them, basically online, is something that they will deal with, right? And I think that sometimes in those instances, he did not say that then it goes with abductions. Maybe the way that Joe would have dealt with it is by taking actions that Nyonka had said, taking some of these people to court. And we have seen a number of people, taking those who have abused them online to court to say that this is a defamation or this person has assaulted me with words on this case. So whatever he meant by taking actions is up to interpretation. But I personally have experienced the same abuses online, and I started by saying that as a politician who has been abused in Migori by many young people who sometimes are hired by political rivals, I don't take those dissents personal, because sometimes they are used to abuse you, and then in the next minute they're asking you for money, in the next minute they're telling you, they're praising you, in the next minute they're telling you who sent them, and they even come and actually visit my home. I don't chase them away. So the level of intolerance is different with different people, but I think that as a country also we must have a candid conversation on what constitutes respect, mutual respect between the public and their leaders.
I get it. Yes, Councillor Harvey.
Now, at the lobby with Richard Onyonka, I confided in him and told him, look, the president is a big person. I've been a president before, but of
the law society
of a professional society. The president doesn't need to speak falsehoods. He needs to speak candidly. And let me speak candidly to my senator. This is my senator because I have a residence in Migori.
Yeah, I'm giving him very, very good shambas in Migori. He's doing very good maize in Migori.
So Senator...
Now prices will be better for you this season.
Thank you. Let me be honest. I did not speak about the atrocities that were meted on the Azimio demonstrators for one reason. And I speak this honestly. I'd lost an election. I was depressed. I was at the lowest of my career. Understand? I didn't even appear in court, neither did I even appear on these shows. And a big man has to be honest and truthful. You understand? But my resolve to fight for human rights has never wavered. And it should also concern you because I am in government. I'm a chair of a state corporation, but that doesn't stop me from speaking. So that should be an assurance to you that I will always fight for the rights of the people of Kenya. Going forward, I'm very delighted, Senator Richard Onyonka, that through our determined cross-examination of Honorable Nelson Koech, we've gotten the confession from him that he abhors these abductions and kidnappings, and he affirms that they are unlawful and they should not continue. That is good for a start. You also took issue with me that we seek to punish Kindiki Kithure and Kipchumba Murkomen. You see, as the Law Society, we have the power to see into the propriety of the conduct of our members. You, as the National Assembly, have the power to censure and even to impeach these cabinet secretaries. You've told us here that on a later date, you will summon Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi to come and explain the circumstances that led to the abduction of Kizza Besigye from here and his rendition to Uganda. You've not told us what you will do about Kindiki Kithure and Kipchumba Murkomen. Now with that, you should sit back and let us as lawyers deal with this too. On the other hand, my good senator, very forthright person, I wish we had 10 or 20 of this. You've seen the manner, the candor in which he speaks. These two gentlemen. This is what we need as leaders. Not just to speak, but to act. And on my part, I've said, as former president of the Law Society of Kenya, as a member of the Law Society, I will take action. And remember yesterday I said, I will not go to the streets. Not yesterday, not ever. Because protests are good, but protests are for a particular purpose. I'm not helpless on what has to be done insofar as Kindiki Kithure and Kipchumba Murkomen is concerned. I've tried it before on the former Attorney General and the former Solicitor General. So we must all do our part. Those who can go to the streets and protest vehemently. You're doing a good job. Those of us in the National Assembly who have been given the constitutional mandate of oversighting the executive must do your work. Summon Kindiki Kithure, summon Kipchumba Murkomen. They must explain to you under what circumstances were they unaware of the whereabouts of the abducted Kenyans. It's your responsibility. And Richard Onyonka and Eddie Okech, when this matter arrives on your table in the Senate, you must speak affirmatively. If these people have to be censured, they must be censored. If they have to be removed from office, they must verily be removed from office.
Ayub.
We cannot be talking about this thing yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Okay. We must now.
Ayub, just to add on what Avia said here, and I'm being very cautious because I entered politics at a very young age, and I know how much sometimes politicians.
Again, it's only that you don't have white hair, but you're not a young man.
No, I said entering politics at
the age of 16.
That's okay, but I'm younger than you for sure, or than most of the politicians that are in the country. But what I wanted to say is that I've entered politics at a very young age, and I'm seeing a trend where there is sometimes in the wake of national crisis, also political incitement against the political class. And sometimes it extends to even the sitting regime. And as a country, we must reflect on this. there is a very thin balance, because what Avi has just said is a very pronounced statement that Kindiki needs to be called, and so is Murkomen needs to be summoned over these issues. What that interprets, in my mind, it means that there are a number of security organ and state institutions that are multi-layered that must deal with these kind of issues before getting to the president. And I'm going back to that because he asked me whether I talked to the president and raised these issues to him. And I told him, I do talk to the president, and the president is sincerely concerned, at least from the way he speaks to me as a young person, and when I talk to him about these issues. And he expressed a lot of disappointment on these abductions. But then, at what point do the investigations happen? At what point does the police take responsibility? At what point does the ministry take responsibility? So that as a leader as strong as Nelson Avi, or as a leader as strong as was the former president, who have been vehemently talkative about these issues, at what point do you factually point finger at the president? Yes, the buck stops with him. Mm-hmm. But imagine if the president today was to go and say, I've seen this and this person, and put an order and say, I'm abducting this person for abducting these young people, or we are arresting this person for this. Will it not be tantamount to violating the Constitution? What I'm saying here is that the leaders like Avi must be leaders who participate in national building. The custodian of nationhood are those people who must remain sober on giving a balanced approach to issues and allowing institutions.
47 years.
No, wait. Because you're the one who raised it. You raised the issue of bringing Kindiki to account, bringing even the IG of police to account. Yet, Avi has also pointed the hand on this show and said the president has abducted some people. You see those kind of factual...
I'm too intelligent to say such a stupid
thing. Or insinuated those kind of things. Yeah. And we face this Ayub, where the responsibility is put squarely on you as a political leader, where institutions have failed, and that must be held accountable before they get to aid your case as head of Migori or any other person.
I'll come to you, Senator Onyonka, and Honorable Nelson Koy, just a minute. Certainly our constitutional democracy outlines our governance structure.
Yes.
The president has no, for example, prosecutorial powers.
Yes.
He cannot order for your arrest today.
Exactly.
Neither can he take you to a court of law.
Yes.
You have agreed with Council Harvey that the Interior CS, Kipchumba Onesmus Murkomen, and his predecessor, Professor Abraham Kithure Kindiki, should be answerable here by Parliament.
Including with the IG of police.
Okay, fine.
Yes.
The IG is also answerable.
Yes.
He can be summoned by a committee.
Yes.
At the National Assembly.
Exactly.
Why then are you absolving the president from all these scenarios when he, the president, can as well, on accountability not, as our Constitution stipulates, can be impeached by Parliament if he commits gross violation of the Constitution?
I'm not absolving everybody, not even myself, as a political leader who is elected. I am just saying that there are statements that when you make, they are tantamount to political incitement. In the sense that if you say that AD has abducted so-and-so without a factual investigated report from, for instance, the IG of police or DCI or the relevant ministry, then for me, you are inciting the public to the point that it can actually, and that's why Avi is being very smart, by the way. He's just being smart. There's somebody who is smart, but somebody who's trying to be smart. Avi is saying that he cannot go to the streets exactly because you know what he's saying, and he knows what I'm saying by saying that to point hand or point fingers is an advocate of the High Court.
Be a fool.
To point fingers at Onyonka that Onyonka has abducted so and so without factually understanding so is not fair to Onyonka, unless you have interrogated and put the institutions that are supposed to make sure that that fact can be substantiated. Because I don't have that fact. He doesn't have that fact. And that's why I cannot go to the streets. Because the last time I saw Avi in the streets, he actually ended up in Parliament drinking tea. Right? And he knows that he can actually go and protest. But the basis for protest cannot just stop at the age of a functional element that some people have been abducted. It has to be able to get justice for those families.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that justice, like right now, Ayub, do you feel like by mere fact that these young people have read it to their families, is that justice? No, it's not justice. Justice is if the ordeal they experienced and they went through is investigated and the people who are responsible for it are brought to book.
And that includes seeking damages.
Exactly.
Senator, I'll come to you in a moment.
I wanted to say this. We are where we are because of certain reasons. Some of us have been discussing and raising issues about our country. The truth is, if Parliament was more proactive, the Senate was more proactive, most likely, I think, it will be much easier for some of the problems that are coming into this country, the problems that are actually even cooking. I mean, Ayub, look at what is happening in Central, even when my colleagues would want to dismiss what is happening, the political matrix that is being generated there, to me, is exact template like what was happening in 1992, 2002, now you're coming to 2000. What is happening right now is very simple. Here you are, you have a political crisis, and we are assuming that this political crisis, the only way you solve it is going to be in a certain manner. That can either be by intimidation or by insulting each other on national TV. And that's why I saw my brother Eddie really struggling to say, oh, you know, there are certain things which, because we want the state to... Eddie, the state only becomes stronger and becomes self-sustaining if we accept that mistakes have been happening on both sides.
Mm. Yes.
And therefore, we need to begin to engage ourselves as leadership honestly, candidly, and fairly. So when I see the noise that is coming from Central Kenya, and I see some of the noise that coming from the people around the presidency, and I see the noise from other quarters, I begin to worry. Why? Because these are matters, if Kenyans who are in leadership were much more serious, these are things, even when some people will consider that where Gachagua is beyond any reasonable redemption and other things, the damage has already been done. But the damage can be managed. You can't throw fuel onto the fire.
Exactly.
If Gachagua is in Central making noise about how the president has betrayed him and the certain community that he comes from is feeling betrayed and all that, so long as he is saying it and he feels that is true without being personal and attacking the president personally, for me, I don't find any contradiction on that. That is what the president, William Ruto, did with Uhuru all the period he was Uhuru's vice president.
And he wasn't impeached.
And he wasn't impeached. And nobody carried kids to go and abduct them to teach them a lesson because they're using a damn phone. This is what scares me.
Yep.
This is what worries me. That slowly we are now becoming, how do I put it, Ayub? We are slowly beginning to become insensitive to the violations, to the disagreements, that everything now in Kenya is beginning to look like it's do or die. I mean, all of a sudden, Mungiki is now being set up to start. I mean, surely.
By who?
I mean, you've been seeing it all over. Social media, you've been seeing it in the newspapers. Mainda Njenga has been reactivated.
By who?
I mean, that's what I'm asking. Do we need to go back to have people who've been activated who have no responsibility or even answerable to anybody?
And I'm raising this point because we were talking about security questions as to who was abducting Kenyans, where they were held, why certainly there was a concurrence between those who were released previously and now, the Longton brothers and Bob Njagi. Again, you bring in another important question. Who then, in your view, is re-engineering Mungiki? My
argument and my point is how I wish the political class would listen to itself. It is not ordinary Kenyans. Because of this power play. Because, I mean, you saw my brother. I mean, you know, Oscar Sudi is my friend. Kamket is my friend. So what are you standing in public and telling me that the elections which are coming, it doesn't matter what I'm going to do, whether you rig them out or not, it doesn't. What are you doing to the country? Why are people so insensitive? I mean, Kenya is a country that has been discriminatory to itself. Look at how we have treated the Somali community. Look at how we have treated other communities. Why is it that our job is purely to plan and organize how to dismember our beautiful country?
Before you retire to bed, when you look yourself in the mirror, do you regret belonging to the same political class?
Yes, I do.
Honorable questions.
Do you regret?
Why should I regret? It is a choice I made.
I completely regret.
It is a choice I made.
Let him make his point.
It's a change. It's a change. It's a change. No, he has asked a very good question. I want to pick from where Senator Eddie left. There's a lot of insincerity. You know, if you're coming into the country for the first time and you look at the faces on TV, you'll think the country is burning. There are gentlemen that have landed, and they're really human rights activists and all sorts of manner. I was in Parliament in the same committee with Senator Onyonka last Parliament. I was arrested not once, not twice, not 3 times, for absolutely no reasons whatsoever by the last regime. People were killed. People were thrown in Riverina. This same team never said anything. And that is exactly what Senator Okechi is saying. I'm building my point, and I gave you time, if you allowed it.
Yeah,
but I hope you give us right to respond.
That is absolutely okay.
Right to respond?
Yes.
All I'm saying is
right to hold him to account.
Okay.
Thank you.
All I'm saying is this.
Thank you.
We must be honest, people.
Okay.
Let us not be people who just want to, to speak to a section of the population, because it is very fashionable now to attack the government. It's very fashionable to be associated with Gen Z. It's very fashionable to speak in a particular way you want to associate with that team. I'm not that kind of a person. I'll speak the truth, and I'll be very honest and factual. I have said abductions are wrong. Equally, I've said, let us be responsible as a nation. Let us be responsible as politicians. Let us be honest. Let us not try and use the situation to as a pedal for our own political maneuvers and ventures. Some people are vultures, people who just want to use an opportunity for their own gainful reason. But in my view, if it is genuine and concerns have been raised, and I have said abductions are wrong, but let us, like Eddie is saying, let there be due process. Let the investigative agencies do their work. Let Parliament do its work. So that by the time we are casting aspersions, by the time we are accusing someone, we have proper facts, not allegations. Okay. If you listen to many people, it's just whipping emotions. You even heard Onyonka saying, there's a team that is activating Mungiki. There's a team that is about to regulate.
You haven't seen it?
It's absolutely nothing. I am telling you, listen to me today.
The who? I did inquire 3 times. Honorable question.
He said Mungiki, and you asked him, and he's saying precisely. He's saying there's a team that is activating Mungiki. I don't know if he's aware. He shared more.
Did you hear me mention who it was? He's already defending government.
No, I'm not defending government.
That's how you know.
I'm saying
he's already defending government.
No,
let him finish his point.
I am saying we must be extremely factual in what we are saying as leaders. There are things that we say, you heard him also saying that there are plans to steal the next general election. I will tell you this, Ayub, today, here on this table, 2027 election, William Ruto will be competing against his manifesto. It doesn't have a competitor.
No, I'll be on the ballot.
And I can tell you that.
Nelson,
Have you please, start with what's last, my brother.
No.
Can he insinuated something that I wanted to set the record straight.
No, Onyonka, you like to disrupt.
No. You can continue after that.
I think you have all been good gentlemen so far.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's
but I wanted to set the record straight for him.
Yes, someone. Let's proceed on the same trajectory. Allow me now to ask him the question. Then.
Okay.
2 fundamental questions, Honorable Koech. Yes, you talked about what happened during the Kenyatta regime. Why then did the president, when he assumed office a year later, make statements that equally bordered on violations of human rights?
He's wrong. I really want to know which statement you're referring to that the president made. It is. You see, we have a function.
You have already prophesied.
Kenya has a robust democracy. Yeah. Kenya, you can do anything. You can, to sometimes an extent where I feel it is bordering on unconstitutionalism.
Yeah.
In our own interpretation of the law and how people communicate, sometimes it borders on infringing on the rights of other people.
Okay, fine, I get your point.
Look for instance.
But how then does it work in a functional democracy like ours when the head of state says, that was in relation to the re-engineering of the sugar factories in Western Kenya or the sugar belt, when he said, and so consistently, I will send them to jail, arrest, send them to jail, or send them to heaven. He has no arrest powers, he has no prosecutorial powers, and certainly we are all mortal and we will die. It's a natural affair. Why did he make these statements? Is it acceptable in a democracy?
If I recollect, he said, Mambo ni matatu. Okay? And I don't know if he meant that he was going to kill anyone. By that statement.
He cannot, can he?
Even when you're on earth, you still can go to heaven. It doesn't mean...
That's a natural process.
Yeah, heaven is not a place that you are delivered. And
me and you, Nelson,
it's a belief
I know
of where we will want to go, but no one knows heaven. Okay?
Me and you believe that at some point we will die.
No, but you're the same person who was saying now, and Yonka has been saying, let's leave the young people who are using AI or any other means of communicate because they're young people, and I believe it. But sometimes, how do you feel in a situation where, for instance, you find someone having a president in their Twitter in a coffin, for instance? Is it something that as a country we will want to have? Isn't it a moral issue? Isn't it a problem? Isn't it painful? How today do you wake up and probably see your child in a coffin, and yet they're alive? Is it something that is not painful, that it warrants that as a country we must summon our thoughts and see if as a society that is what we want? It is reflective of the people that we have.
Okay, you have gone off to a lovely diversion. Again, I'll come to Honorable Kocha.
I'm just telling you what our society is.
Do you think the president has the powers to arrest?
He doesn't. Even to instruct the police.
Okay. Do you think
Nelson Harvey knows very well that the president cannot even direct the National Police Service.
And do you think he has
because
powers to
it is not allowed. He cannot prosecute.
Why then do you think he makes that in a constitutional democracy like ours?
I think people just overthought it. The president was simply expressing something that probably, and it worked somehow. Let me tell you, when you're playing power, sometimes you do not necessarily have to stick to the script. Sometimes you make statements that will scare people. Let me tell you even how when I run in my constituency, it does not necessarily mean that I'm extremely popular. But if you go to a public rally, and I'm teaching this to Nelson Harvey, probably that he's going to have a shot on his member of parliament.
No, President of the Republic of Kenya.
Next time you go into a public rally, you scare people. You say this thing is taken. Even if this section, if this small section don't vote for me, I am taking it. So, that is now
so
confidence.
I say the presidency is taken.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ayub.
That's a good template.
Ayub, I want to say thank you, my brothers Nelsons. Thank you. I actually want to mention to my highly respected brother of mine, Nelson Koech. Nelson, the things we say on these TV stations and in public rallies have nothing to do with TikTok. I've heard you, when you try and criticize people like me, when we were being jailed and abducted during the last regime. But it was your regime.
Absolutely.
You were in Jubilee. Same Jubilee people were killing each other. Now they wanted me to now come in and begin to sort out how they are killing each other. Me as a member of parliament from Kisii. I did not understand that this thing has always existed and it's been systemic. All right? I can tell you, Ayub, that my brother Nelson Harvey, I have been here discussing about why is our country constantly looking as if it is deliberately being broken down by certain individuals. And of course, Nelson will jump and say, you are now accusing the president. No. Some of the people who are doing the things that are being done, the president may not know. And we've constantly said, Eddie, you've been with me. How many times have we said, we are not anti-government? I am not against the broad-based government, but I don't want Joho and Wandai and John Badi to start lecturing Kenyans as if this country is their shop where they're selling potatoes and oranges, and without them, those people can't get those things. We had the good manners We had the good behavior, where we don't tribalize development, where we don't tribalize our communities. I mean, there are certain things which are happening, and you are like, why would somebody make a decision like that? So what we are saying, my brother Koech, is this. We want to have good manners. We want to have a country where I criticize you. You see how we are sitting here and you are telling me and I'm listening. I may not argue. I may argue against you the way you're arguing. But imagine whatever you are saying is getting into my head. Because I'm an averagely normal person. When I listen to Nelson Harvey, 90 or 80 or 40% of the things he'll say, they make sense. What he doesn't make sense with, I'll leave it alone. That's how we've been operating at the Senate with Kina Eddie. Not all of us know everything that is happening. We consult. What we are saying, how do you save this country with its myriad problems? And some of us are saying, please, get whoever that matters, whether it is Jacob Raila, whether it is President William Ruto, whether it's Kina Musali and Wetanda. Can these people get up and realize they are there, wazees who are left in the room? That this country is bigger than all of us, and this country can actually be saved if people took it a little bit more seriously. And what some of us are saying, Ayub, we are actually playing with our country. I mean, look at, go to the paper and count the stories you see. I mean, my brother is saying that if somebody walks into the airport, he'll think all of us who are on TV are crazy. No, we are not. I mean, the headline is about kids who are abducted. Then you come and look at how the parents are struggling with the books.
The papers.
No, I'm saying, but all of them are referring the same.
They are not an authority.
Then, no. It's public opinion.
Can we chime in?
Yes, you can.
Because I think.
Allow your senator to make up.
I was listening very hard. You know, I was trying to listen as much as possible, and again, I like going back to the concept of a new year, new resolutions, new way. We are starting a new year with bad manners of last year. And that is not how our country should go. That means that our country is in the wrong direction. And I was very deliberate with some of my questions to my colleagues here. I have a very simple question of why was it that during the most atrocious moments...
I was depressed.
I'm coming to that. And I listened to your answer. I'm going to reflect on it. And I'm not using it against you. I'm just giving a concept that we can all embrace as leaders. It's just an opinion that I've said that I think the country is going on the wrong direction on three accounts, my brother Ayub. Number one, on the basis of fighting for human rights, it cannot be an issue of convenience. It cannot be an issue of politics. I insist on that it cannot be a political convenient issue where there's time that you can be silent and there's time that you can be louder than any other person. I don't believe that cheerleaders of yesterday on human rights atrocities can be the heroes of today on the same atrocities, unless the functionality must be that they have apologized for being cheerleaders of previous mistakes. Because that's the only way you become the altar of fighting for human rights. It's just like when you go to church or you go to a mosque, there is a basic tradition that makes you a Muslim. There is a basic tradition that makes you a Christian. You must be baptized if you are a Christian. You must read the Fatiha when you are a Muslim. If you are a cheerleader of human rights atrocities in the past, you cannot be a hero of today without that baptism into that theater. Because you cannot tell us that you today you want to be a hero of abductors, that because you lost an election, when Raila Amolo Odinga has lost an election every year in, year out, and still stands and fights for violation of human rights. A number of people have lost elections. So many people, even the loss that we had in 2002 of the presidential election was a big one. But we still stood very strong and fought for that human rights violation. So that's number one. Our country cannot have cheerleaders of atrocities now rising on the theater of heroism and heroic acts. That is politics. Number two, Ayub, elections in our country must have a meaning. And I've been listening how the way Onyonka and Koech have been battling each other, who was in Jubilee, who was in that. The other time we were with you, Ayub, with Dr. Ekuro Aukot. And I told him a statement which I still stand with today. Elections must have a meaning in our country. You cannot make a decision in the ballot today, and then after making that decision, then you go to the kitchen and expect a different result. I have said particularly that I do not have responsibility on this government because I did not elect this government. But because I did not elect it, all the mistakes that Avi did by supporting Ruto in the past, or any other people who supported Ruto who come here, cannot be my responsibility now to correct.
But,
my responsibility
but you bear responsibility as a
I'm coming to that. As a citizen, my responsibility is to work as a senator, which have been given a very, very noble opportunity by the people of Migori, and I thank them all the time.
Yeah.
And also being able to call out what is going on wrong in this government and assist where I can to the level best possible by passing good laws, by advising on right things, both for the president and his teams, where they can be able to do better and continuing going well. And that goes to my last point, which is about that must be translated in terms of resource gaps in some communities. Because some communities are more equal than others in this country. And resources must be shared in a way that there are no people who are more Kenyan than others.
Absolutely.
And this is something that the president must work very hard on in the next 2-3 years. Because I've seen comments that people use this theater of abductions to now rally their communities behind them. It's serious. They're rallying their communities behind them on the theater of abductions. And that's why I was calling them cheerleaders of bad manners in the past and now want to be heroes. And they're running their communities. I sit in Finance and Budget Committee in the Senate.
Is he talking about?
Do you know that the biggest pending bills in this country, the biggest pending bills, especially in infrastructure, are 70% going towards finishing projects in one region in this country? We must sit and reflect as a country that we do not play in the theater of politics on young people who have been abducted and use us as an excuse of mischief to build our own political echelons when we can actually be sincere about human rights.
The Constitution outlines that fairness and equity is paramount, as Senator Onyonka said, but the manner in which this is done is largely those who implement it.
Yes.
I will sample the feedback in a moment. I'll come to you, Councillor Harvey. You mentioned that you do not support in any way the Kenya Kwanza administration.
I said I did not support it into leadership. But now that it is there, right, I'm very clear about what we must correct, what we must criticize, and what we must endorse to work for the country. For instance, I strongly endorse the idea of expansion of a space where more Kenyan can be included into the resource sharing gap in the country, which is what the Broadwell government is. That needs to be supported.
I assume your party leader hasn't voted for William Ruto.
Yes.
But he is a staunch supporter of his government today.
Yes. What is the problem with it?
You don't.
I said I did not support President Ruto for 2022 elections. Okay?
Neither did your party leader.
Yes, but now we are supporting that government's agenda of expanding the resource-based sharing in this country to the extent that it is more inclusive if you look at it now than if you look at it in 2022 when the government was constituted. It is eminent. Like when the government was constituted, it was not as inclusive as it is right now. And that one we support. And that's why I'm saying that areas where we are having serious gap like security, because I think that the function of government is two. One is to be ensure that there's security in the country, and number two, create a serious precondition for businesses and people to be able to thrive. And to the extent that we are seeing these gaps in abductions, we must be able to call out the government to be able to put an infrastructure that deals with it in a manner that is not politicking for convenience by what we are seeing with some cheerleaders who have been violators of human rights now coming in very strongly to want to become heroes on this theater of abduction of young people.
And
that's what I'm making very clear.
Okay, and there are many government agendas, Senator Eddie, and your party leader supported, for instance, the Adani deal projects. Was he right?
I think it was right. In the sense that, listen, I know, yes, that's a question which is very, no, Ayub, this is a very important question.
By the indictment?
No, wait. It's a very important question that if I don't elaborate, you might hold me wrong. Raila Odinga was very clear on what we call PPP. There are 3 ways to be able, and I'm going to say it very fast in 1 minute if you allow me. There are 3 ways to be able to raise money for this country to be able to build serious infrastructure project. One is taxing people. People are already overtaxed. Number 2 is to income more debt from outside. People are already having serious debt burden. Unless you get a number 3/4 of donations by other good-willing development partners, the only other way is private-public partnership.
Fine.
And that is what Raila Amolo Odinga supported. If you go back to that statement of Raila Amolo Odinga in the coast, it was very clear that Adani D was not transparent. But the PPP is what he supported.
No, he supported the company. He said he supports the company, yes.
The microphone is mine.
Yeah.
4 points.
Quickly, we are out of time.
The freedom of expression and freedom of the media does not entitle anybody to propagate hatred and vilification.
Brilliant.
To that extent, therefore, it is objectionable to publish the photograph generated of anybody dead. That is wrong.
Yeah,
Yes.
Anybody appearing in the opposite gender, that is wrong.
Precise.
Yeah, and we must condemn this. And I said this.
Yeah, I like that now.
Please keep quiet.
That's the attitude.
I stated we'll pursue the release of these individuals. Kibet Bull did nothing wrong. The caricature is permissible. In fact, we must advocate for it. What he did is what Gado and all cartoonists do.
I've always done.
You understand? But these individuals who published the photograph of the president in a coffin, that is moronic, it's immoral, it's unlawful. Please stop it. Don't do it. It's bad. That's number 1.
Excellent.
Number 2, criticism is good.
Yes.
Dr. William Samoei Ruto told me, not once, not twice, 4 times, that when he joined Parliament as a youthful member of Parliament, Honorable Paul Kibuge Muite told him, part of supporting the government entails pointing out the pitfalls of that government. Let me therefore dissuade Nelson Koech and his ilk, who always think because I hold the position of a board chair, then I'm forever silenced from speaking truthfully. They will tell you, even William Samoei Ruto is happy that I'm able to point out these things. He knows. Number 3, we need to be action-oriented. We've spoken for too long. We've indicated on our part of the Law Society of Kenya will take positive, deliberate steps to hold to account advocates in Parliament, advocates in the executive, and advocates in the judiciary. We're doing that. And everybody else must do his or her part. You know, it saddens me to see somebody as intelligent as Eddie Okech speak in a very unintelligible manner, always crying that we are using offices to which office do I hold? You see, I'm respected as a Kenyan because of who I am, the cumulative build-up of a profile for 22 years as an advocate, not because of chair of a corporation.
But it's a responsibility
not because of,
that is allowed.
Please,
Let
allow
him
your
finish his point
seniors
here.
to
You had your
speak.
time.
Not because of the office I held as president of the Law Society, but because of my name. And I want all of us, 4 of us, to emulate this. This gentleman has a good name. It will take him far. These people speak intelligibly. I wish they could acquire a good name so that they go far.
Thank you.
May you all be blessed.
Thank you. Yes, Senator.
It's a very small.
I have a very good name.
It's a very small question. I wanted to correct my brother Eddie. Eddie, just as much as we have contradiction in some of us who have never been making a lot of noise as to when human rights are being violated and everything, is exactly the same argument that has made my party leader to join a government that we were against. You see, in politics, those contradictions emerge. At some point, you'll feel that the decision you've made is actually the wrong one or the right one, depending on the circumstances. Did I support the party leader for having joined the government? Yes, Eddie, you know, we talked about it.
Yes.
We looked and asked ourselves, do we have a structure if the Gen Z come in and decide to take over government? How do they run it? It was not possible. We were honest and realistic with this scenario. So when people are busy killing Raila over that, it's just because they didn't understand the status report. that we were that close to the country either going to the military or the country disintegrating, and then you are going to have militias in the Republic of Kenya. Have some of us become emancipated, like me who's a Catholic, to change and accept that there's certain responsibility I have greater than before? Absolutely, Eddie. Have I ever been more harsher and more critical of government before? For the last 10 years, I've been talking about corruption. I've been talking about bad governance. I criticized Jubilee government. We've always done that.
You and I have done that.
We've always done that.
I think
so what I want Eddie not to do is to make an assumption that, and I listened to Harvey very carefully, and that has been his Achilles heel, that he wasn't consistent in fighting for the rights of the people who were abducted during that time because we were on the ODM side and they were on the other side.
Gachagua was cheering. He was cheering that inhuman.
Let him finish. He was
with the Gachagua, you know, it was one of the
people were cheering the killing of
my major
cannot be exonerated.
It was one of the,
we are out of time.
Thank you.
30 seconds.
I'm happy that.
You're happy?
No. I'm making a statement.
He's happy that the debate has gone well.
I'm saying that even there's a silver lining in all this discussion today. That part of the things that we're not discussing today is the cost of unga, is the cost of fuel, is the inflation rate of the country. Some of the things are positive. Save for these few things of abductions that is casting a very dark shadow on our country. I hope we start this new year in a good outfit, and I pray for good health of everyone, and that we can have robust democracy.
Important points you have pointed out. Of course, we can't overlook them. They're important. Can I sample the field briefly? Just hang on.
Yes.
A bit?
Yes. Sure.
1 second, then we say good morning here.
Can you apply for extension of time?
The hashtag on X.
The CJ will grant.
Well, I can't make that editorial decisions at such time. So Nixon Dugure says, for how long shall we ask who the purported abductors are? Is the government's hand still long? Kabui Joy says, tell Senator to call the president out categorically and not say those in government. And Vero Hasiko one says, everything about abduction is all about politics and government might not have a hand in it. But they knew whoever abducted the boys. He did so to bargain something and also to just fuel anger to bad governance of the Kenya Kwanza administration.
My point.
Peter Gesura 89 says, all of us must condemn this issue of abduction in our country. At the same time, let the parents talk to their children, especially the youth, to ensure they are morally upright. And the final one, Remy Butia says the abduction could erode trust in government institution and is very risky in terms of national security, where the police and the citizens become increasingly hostile towards each other, potentially leading to a gangline state. Two Nelsons, Harvey and Koech, thank you for your time. Senators Onyonka and
this thing of President of the Republic of Kenya is taken.
Much appreciated. As advice. Social hour is up next. We'll see you tomorrow morning on the. Till then, good morning.